All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Cody. I'm a sales director at ShipStation. Really excited for this part of the day. Appreciate you all being here. This panel is called the Perfect Pitch Panel. So that means a lot of things to everyone in the room today. We're going to get a lot of unique perspectives on this. Really excited to hear from all these smart people that are joining us up here. So from pitching VC, Shark Tank, Good Morning America, even the government, I'm joined here by some experts. They're going to discuss some unique perspectives, some unique experiences all around delivering the perfect pitch for your business. So I'm going to turn it over to them, let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Sean Riley. I am co-founder and chief executive dude of Dude Products, and we are famous for our product Dude Wipes, which is flushable wipes you could find in your local toilet paper aisle. And I was on Shark Tank in 2015 and did a deal with Mr. Mark Cuban.
Hi guys, my name is Corey Egan. I'm the founder of Ilumi. We've done a couple things throughout our journey, but we started off selling smart light bulbs before those were a thing. Grew the business through retail and then ended up exiting that business last year. And now we help connect other cool smart products, whether those be consumer or commercial, through Bluetooth mesh IoT solutions. We were on Shark Tank in 2014, and Cuban is an investor.
Lauren Knausenberger. I'm the Chief of Innovation for the Air Force, and I get to spend about half of my time investing in awesome companies and enabling airmen to innovate, and the other half of my time I get to spend busting bureaucracy at the Pentagon.
Erez Peled. I'm co-founder and CEO of Latika and Black Hatchet, which is a brand of bath and body products made here in Austin. Products are sold in Anthropologie, HEB, Altered State, and we were just featured in Good Morning America.
I'm Mike Chafin. I'm co-founder of 3 Commas. We're apparel line that I founded with Mark Cuban. He was a direct investment, and by the way, on Silicon Valley, they actually saw him wearing the product, so we did not steal it from them.
Well, great. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Like I said, a lot of smart people up on the stage today, so I'm going to ask some questions, then get out of the way. Sean, we'll start with you, and then we'll go down the line. We've got such a vast group of experts here. I'm curious to know, can you talk about your first or maybe your most memorable pitch that you've either done or heard or been a part of in your career?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Shark Tank pitch will always take the cake in terms of just the stage and the pressure. You know, every little mistake you make, they're going to amplify it. But actually, a few years before that, we were down here in an incubator in Austin, and I was in 2013. But we're from Chicago, but we relocated down here for the CPG incubator, and we really had no sales, so we were just maybe some entertaining guys with a fun brand, but no proof of concept. So we spent like 3 months, learning about the business, tweaking it so we could pitch to investors. And, this is when we were bringing the orders down to the UPS store from our house, really no proof of concept yet. So I remember some of those pitches because everyone said no, this sounds like a good idea, that sounds like a fun brand, but where's the proof in the pudding? So I think some of those pitches where, you didn't get the yes you wanted, but you kind of kept going through, can be very memorable and, good things to learn from. 2 years later, when we were on the Shark Tank, we, had $1 million in sales. We had proved the concept out, so we were in actually position to get a yes. But I always laugh because we had been applying for the show for years before that, and we would have got roasted, if we got on there earlier. So, you got to remember your earlier pitches where you got no's, because that'll kind of lead you to when you're ready to get a yes. Sometimes kind of the opportunity meets the preparation.
You?
Same question?
Please.
So I think the most unique pitch, outside of Shark Tank, was early days. So we started off company Ilumi out of MBA school. It was part of a competition at school, and the school then sponsored us to go to a number of other academic competitions. I remember at Wake Forest, we were at a pitch competition. It was an elevator competition, but you literally got into an elevator and pitched and had the time it took to go from like the first floor to the 25th floor to get through your pitch. And like if they liked it, they stayed on the elevator and you rode back down. If they didn't like it, they got off the elevator. And so it was unique. And either I blocked it out of memory because it was bad, or I don't know because a lot of things have happened yet, because I can't remember if they stayed on the elevator or not. They were down with us. But I thought that one was a lot of fun.
So I'll start by saying that, a lot of the best pitches are the ones that your first reaction is like, why the heck would anyone do that? Like, hey, I'm going to start this business where there's a big warehouse, and you go and pick out your own furniture parts, and then you go home and assemble it yourself. That sounds like a terrible idea. Get in a car with a stranger, sleep on a stranger's couch. So these all, of course, seem crazy to me at first, at least, but are, of course, amazing businesses that I go to regularly. So maybe the one I'm going to tell you about is the next brilliant thing. We'll see. But I was at it was mostly DoD event, a lot of fitness buffs in the crowd. And these guys get up to talk about their new app. And they're saying, BMI just doesn't give me enough information. And those machines at the gym, they're just so expensive. So our app, it will tell you your fat percentage, your muscle percentage, and your water weight. You just take a picture of yourself and you upload it to our secure server. So it takes me about 5 minutes to realize that people are uploading naked pictures to a secure server. And I'm in the cybersecurity business, and I'm thinking, all right, I don't know how secure this server is, but that system administrator's got a pretty fun job. It's kind of funny. We'll see if that's the next one that just really takes off that I missed.
So we started working with HEB last year, which was a huge thing for us. And up until then, we were working with a lot of really small mom and pop shops and gift stores where your pitch is mostly cold calling a small store and asking them to buy your products. And then we found ourselves, having to pitch our products to executives and big, buyers at HEB. And so they actually approached us. They were interested in our bath bombs, and we were saying, yeah, of course. But they wanted to see about 15 new products in no time, and displays and everything to fit in hundreds of stores. And we had about 2 weeks, and we worked really hard and made it happen, and kind of practiced our pitch and went to San Antonio where their headquarters is, and expecting to get into an office with executives. And we found ourselves in an old warehouse where they tried different products. We were all dressed up. And it was very laid back, and it was about 5 minutes of pitch, and it went great, but it didn't feel like something tremendous. But that was it. And apparently we did okay because we rolled into 100 stores about 2 months later.
I've seen hundreds of stupid pitches, and unfortunately I was one giving them. But Mark is probably my shortest pitch. I stayed up all night putting this great presentation, laying out all this product. And Mark, like most investors, is looking for two things. Can they do it, and do I want to work with them? So he asked probably about 10 questions, was out the door, and we had a deal done in 24 hours. So he was very direct, and I just pretty much, wasted an entire night with a lot of fluff, a lot of presentation on how it will work. Everything will be great, but all he wanted to know was numbers, and is this a person and group I want to work with?
Very cool. On that note, Sean, I'm curious, you mentioned it. What was something maybe that those no's help you get to on the yes? What was something that maybe you didn't pick up until several of those no's down the line? Something that you needed to get that yes that maybe was part of the learning curve?
Yeah, I think sometimes kind of that confidence and conviction, you can show to the investor, because at the end of the day, they may see a good idea, but they have to bet that that person's going to get it done, the future unknown, so everything you're laying out. So, sometimes just it's that balance of not being blindly confident to, really just, having a mission and a purpose that this is what you're going to achieve. But one of our no's turned into a yes on the Shark Tank within, 30 minutes, and it was Cuban. So, we were up there battling it, and Mark gives his, I like what you're doing, guys, but I'm out. I'm not a wipes guy. I don't use wipes, so I just couldn't get into it. So like, oh man, like that's the guy we were envisioning doing a deal with, and he's out, and you're just like, all right, on to the next one. So talking to Mr. Wonderful and Herjavec, and they're beating us up on valuation, and we're going back and forth with them, and we're telling them, no, we're not going to give up this much, getting into more of our plans and how we're going to be successful. And that's what ended up, Mark at some point decided, hey, these are guys that I want to work with. They're smart guys, they're hustlers. So that's when he came back in and said, you know what, I'll do the deal, exactly what you're asking for. These guys are trying to beat you up for a few percentages, and we were like, boom, done. So that was a no and a yes within 30 minutes of each other, just by being persistent. So that was it's a fun one to watch, because you're not expecting him to come back in. He hasn't said anything in a while, and he comes back in because he sees the conviction in the people.
Really cool. Lauren, I'm curious, because I probably know have the least experience with this piece of it. You got a really unique perspective with the government implication there. So what are some of the differences that you maybe see in pitching to investors or private equity versus when you're dealing with the government?
Sure. So I'll start with a story from 2 weeks ago. So Mark Cuban did a really cool service 2 weeks ago. We have Shark Tank for the Air Force, and Mark Cuban came to be one of the sharks. And so you have some young airmen that are there pitching their idea to their military heroes, but also to Mark Cuban and George Steinbrenner. So it was pretty awesome. And you have a lot of shared military perspective on the stage, but Mark just asked really wonderful questions. And there was one situation where, so we drop military cargo, and apparently we only have a 98% success rate. So 2% of the time we kind of just drop the cargo from an airplane, and it's kind of gone. Millions of dollars, not a great success rate. So we had an airman 3D print this block that could solve the problem for pennies on the dollar. But he started talking about this competitor product that was $1,500 and had to be plugged in. So Mark's spidey senses go off immediately. And he very passionately asked this guy, if you Google this, it's gone totally viral on the internet, by the way. And he asked the airman, now why on earth would anybody spend that much more money for something that doesn't add value? Everybody thinks their product's great, but we're missing something here. And the airman got flustered for a minute, and then he goes, welcome to the military. And I'm glad that you all get this joke. I mean, that auditorium in Orlando just went crazy. Everybody was just laughing hilariously. The Secretary of the Air Force gets up and gives this guy a hug, and of course everybody's loving that too. But it did hit at something that is very different, that unfortunately in the government, a lot of times we don't make the best decision. We had a situation where Mark was asking a real question about something really stupid that had been done, and half the room, kind of just jumped into the red meat situation and, just kind of laughed about it. But unfortunately, in government pitches, it is a little bit different, where, like, if you pitch a VC, you both have kind of a common knowledge of the market. It's completely different viewpoints when you're pitching the government. Just like with pitching any investor, it does come down to, do I want to work with you? Can you do it? But there's a lot more risk on both sides. Are we going to deliver in time? That's something that we're trying to really work on. Speed to funding, that can kill a business. And then can we actually assess the technology? That's something that, is tougher. So sometimes we're not the smartest money, but, we definitely do some interesting partnerships, including matching VCs more. We can do one-to-one matching up to $1.5 million. So a lot of businesses, if you can find a government customer that understands what you are doing and you can provide value, remembering that, the federal government, we do everything that everybody else does in the back office, okay? So that's one thing you can sell. We do pretty much everything on the tech realm, and then we do some really kind of specialized technology things that your product could be tailored to. So there's a huge market that a lot of people don't necessarily go after. But part of why I'm in government, I joined 18 months ago, was actually an entrepreneur and a venture capitalist before that, is to try to shift some of this dynamic. So hopefully in the future, some of you will be participating in a government tech accelerator, which is very similar to a normal tech accelerator, except that we're throwing extra funding behind it. We're coaching you on how to actually pitch the government to generals who have no idea what you're talking about in terms of market, but know what they're talking about in terms of mission, and vice versa, having them be able to translate what you're saying to them. So it's an exciting time at that cross section.
Yeah, really cool. Thank you. I'm curious. I know we spoke in the days leading up to Good Morning America. I know that wasn't a pitch in the sense that you weren't looking for an end goal of funding, but in a sense of publicity or pitching, yourself to the general public. In that sense, it really was an important pitch. So I'm curious, kind of what you did leading up to that experience. If you could kind of share with us around that, because I know that was a big moment for you guys.
So we were lucky enough for them to approach us and offer us to be on the show. So in that term, you didn't have to really pitch them the product. But there's a process leading to it, which involves marketing and a lot of work on our website and images, and so to kind of position ourselves in the market for them to find us to begin with. And so the process afterwards was pretty straightforward, but we had to prove to them that we can actually make it. Because it's really a run and gun type of thing where, it happens fast, it's a lot of orders, and you have to make it work. And leading to it, we had to do some research and see if we can make it. And if not, we looked into fulfilling with, outside warehouses, and it seems that we're not going to be left with any margin at the end of it, so we decided to do it ourselves. So we rented another warehouse. We had a new team of 6 people just for that event, and we had ShipStation help us to set everything up and really tweak the system and help us ship a lot of orders in a short time. And it was a success, and we shipped out more than 2,000 orders in less than 3 days.
Really cool. That brings up a point that I'm curious about. How do you plan for a success like that scenario where, if things went well, you guys knew you were going to see a boom in business? How do you plan for, maybe the yes that you aren't sure that you're going to get, like Shark Tank, you assume that you're going to get a big boom in business coming out. What are some of the things that go kind of into preparation leading up to a pitch? That's for anybody up here that's been through that.
So we did a bit of this before the initial airing of Shark Tank. Just in making sure our website was ready, and we told our e-commerce platform provider at that time, trying to make sure that we prepared to take advantage of that extra traffic in terms of conversion mechanisms, so having all of our promotions lined up, and then of course on the inventory side, trying to make sure you have as much inventory that's already available as you can. Shark Tank was an interesting one because you really only get 2 weeks before they tell you you're going to air. And so it's kind of like a 2-week scramble, and you kind of maybe know it's coming, but you don't know it's coming. They actually sent the email to my co-founder, who was in India at the time, and didn't send it to me. So we actually got 1 week to prepare, which was nice. It was a nice little surprise. But then when we did the re-airing, we had more time. We knew it was coming, and worked with all of our retailers to make sure, as that would air, that we would, not only our website, but had promotions and opportunities working with them too, just to plan for it.
Anybody else have to put any prep ahead of time, or any maybe unforeseen challenges that came out of that sudden pop?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the stuff optimizing the experience, like getting ready for a big bump in traffic, and but yeah, you don't have much time to prepare, and we were still running spreadsheets and doing things very manually. So some of it is just you're airing on Friday, you're going to be figuring everything out all weekends. You can get the customer the product out on Monday, make that good first impression, because obviously that's important with a lot of the Shark Tank people. They essentially usually know nothing about you, so you got to make a good first impression, get that product out on time, and sometimes that just means doubling down and working extra hours, and making that good, first impression is really important.
Yeah, really cool. And I'm curious, I know there are a lot of companies that maybe aren't at that funding level yet, or maybe they're not even interested in that. But in a sense, your brand and your brand awareness is almost like a constant pitch. So I was curious if you have any insights that go into that, what you have in mind. Even if you're not targeting the end goal of funding, you plan on doing it yourself, but any kind of parallels that you see there, maybe, constantly pitching your brand.
I think one of the things that a lot of people struggle, they really don't define their core DNA of their product. They try to be everything to everybody coming out the chute. So that early definition is so critical. When you go through and you put up your audience on a board and you have this big whiteboard filled, you really need to go through and mark through everything but one and find that, and that's going to be that DNA, that target market you're going after. And I think after that, you really have to have that passion as an individual. When we came out with 3 commas, I mean, people looked at it and just saw 3 sperms on a shirt. You know, the commas just didn't look defined. So, you know, look at that dude walking around with 3 sperms. But so it took a lot of passion, a lot of humility there. Because once they hear it and they look at Russ Hanneman on Silicon Valley, you know, they also have another opinion a lot of times. But you got to be very passionate about your brand, whether it's apparel or men's ass wipes. You know, you got to be strong with it. And then lastly, consistency is key, because everybody has an opinion, everybody has advice, and they will sit there and come out and tell you. And it's so easy to be like those little kids on a soccer field all chasing a ball. And it's so important to have that, and to have that, I guess, vision to stick with your brand identity. And, you know, you got to be prepared to pivot if it's not working. We changed up our logo a little bit, went a little less spermish to something that looks more like the Audi symbol, but which helped a lot. But, you know, the main thing is just not changing every time someone comes with an opinion.
I'm curious how that thought process goes. How do you know what to say no to? Or how do you know what's noise versus what's valid?
You know, you look at the track record that people are telling you, but you should have confidence and enough passion with your brand, and hopefully have enough feedback. You know, we struggled coming out the gate because, you know, we came out around the election year, and, you know, Mark had an opinion on a candidate, and needless to say, no matter what candidate he backed, the other candidate's audience were going to come in, and we were every day cleaning stuff, you know, off our website that people were posting strong opinions of. But we sat through that and, you know, really got really a lot of details from retailers and everything on the brand, the look, the feel, and what was hot. You know, before that, I've been with the rapper Nelly for 15 years. We had success with apple bottoms, and we really stuck with our core DNA there. We also had this kind of the same thing with Gas Monkey Garage. When we launched that, you know, we had the rugged T-shirts, and then when we tried to go more fashion, you know, it was Revolt, and we, you know, kind of went back to our core DNA. So we had both those experiences trying to switch based on opinion.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Anybody else have kind of branding tips or tips around maybe the early days pre-funding around constantly pitching yourself?
Yeah, sure. We started really small here in Austin, and I think our brand went through a lot of changes and a lot of trial and error. And a lot of it was here in the street, selling in South Congress, selling in farmers markets, and eventually graduating into doing wholesale and working with bigger and bigger accounts. And I think it's important to start small, because if you make small mistakes, you know, you can correct them. If you did wrong with one of your small customers, you can move on. But if you made a big mistake with Target or, you know, Walmart, it's pretty hard to come back from that. And so we worked on our product, and we're still working on our products all the time, improving them, you know, making the packaging nicer, the branding, our website. It's a constant improvement process. So
I'm really interested in that part for any of you up here. What tools, I guess, do you use to iterate on that? Is it gut feel? Are you looking at specific pieces of data to drive those decisions?
You know what? Market research is a big word, but it doesn't have to be. It can be just one person going to the street and asking 100 people questions. You know, and we did that with naming our products for our men's line Black Hatchet, and we did that with different things, and it's great, you know. It doesn't have to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, hiring a big company to do that for you. Just go out there and ask people questions.
There's a lot of colleges, too, that have entrepreneur programs. We use University of Miami, and they'll always do free projects for you. So it's a great resource, just contacting the school and being a semester-long project for free. And, you know, we've run 3 projects through their school, and they do phenomenal work, and it's all free.
I'll add that when it comes to setting up a company or even running an internal program or even marketing yourself, I have become more and more convinced over the last year that there's no dollar amount, you know, that like it's really that you should cap yourself on marketing. I mean, like, I don't mean like go nuts, but like the money that you spend is going to pay spades. And like the right logo, the right name. Like I'll give you an example, even actually just internal to the Air Force, we have this software team called Kessel Run. and this team, like the smuggling route, they smuggled agile software development into the Air Force, so, which was the only way that the government was actually going to get on board with this was, kind of stealth. But now, we have partnerships with Pivotal Labs. The Valley is actually working with us because of the power of that branding. Even the folks, that like to hate on the military right now, are very much working hand in hand with us because there's like a feeling that started with that branding. I have another friend too from the personal branding. He went from being unemployed and feeling crappy about himself to being, he started an LLC and just grew some confidence and did fake it till you make it. And just like, I think confidence is really inspiring when you go into a pitch. Like if you have somebody that just can walk in and rock it, but then be really receptive to like a little bit of that feedback, and especially with customers listening. So I think marketing, confidence, and listening, just with any pitch, any branding campaign.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I know a lot of the merchants that I've worked with, a lot of that confidence comes from preparation. Like Corey, I know on your Shark Tank, you knew a little bit about every single shark that you were talking to. So I know you mentioned that you really only had like a week of prep time there, but I'm curious, even though you guys make it look easy, you seem pretty cool, calm, and collected up here now, I got to imagine that was a pretty hectic week. I was curious kind of what went on behind the scenes there.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it at least looked like I knew what I was doing on national television. So it was a week that we were notified that it was going to air. The actual process from us doing the initial audition to it airing was a year-long process with multiple steps thereafter. And I think part of, just as all these guys have said, anytime if you have something that you're passionate about, something that you're building, do not be shy about sharing that. Yeah, I don't share intellectual property, but I encourage you, every opportunity, every person that you meet is an opportunity for you to practice and be able to communicate what it is that you ultimately are trying to build and the good that it'll do someone. And B, get their feedback so you can kind of learn and understand even just what words you're using that resonate. So in preparation for Shark Tank, I think by that point, we had done so many pitches. We knew about our business. We knew where the pitfalls were. We knew where the holes were. We knew where the strengths were. And yeah, we definitely also understood who we were pitching to, not just as sharks, but a bit of their background and who was even, one of the reasons we really wanted to do a deal with Cuban was we saw stats that he was, he had the highest rate of actually, when he agreed to something on the show, actually making an investment thereafter, rather than things can happen, and just because there's a deal on the show doesn't mean that they actually invest. So it was a lot of that kind of preparation. And then as it led up to the event itself, and we were flying out to Los Angeles to do the actual filming, it was like, at that point it's okay, if we're gonna be on national television representing our company, asking for investment, being filmed, so every little twitch or thing that you say could be used against you at any point in time in the future, we really wanted to make sure we were polished. So it was practice. Rehearse every scenario, every question, just like it was on automatic. My wife came out with me and she took on the persona of each shark as well. And she got Mr. Wonderful down pat, like a licensing deal. Yes, let's do a licensing deal. Your evaluation is terrible. So that really helped, just putting ourselves in that mindset and just preparing. Yeah, doing it.
So I think if anybody has marketing questions, just ask Sean because he made like baby wipes cool for men and apparently has single-handedly built his own company, but also increased the market share of all of the other wipe-making companies through his marketing efforts.
Yeah, I think you guys have all made great points on branding. Like authenticity that's what wins. Like people, brands, people want authentic things, and that's like what grows. And I would say some of the number one questions we get, and it's from very smart people, and this is what you're saying with gut feeling, or like, you establish who you are. So we were, 4 guys out of our apartment, no idea what we were doing, except that we saw that there was nobody talking to men in the entire wipe space in the country. So boom, there's an opportunity that there's not a lot of other people, playing in. And that that first day one idea ended up being a good idea, but all along the way and still to this day, why don't you make products for women? Why don't you make products for babies? You know, why would you do those sort of things? You're going to alienate like the very people who think you're authentic and that you're, you know, building a community behind. So we're still the guys who will post anything on Instagram, doesn't matter the language, the content. And our competition at the store is Charmin and Cottonelle, and they literally have cartoon bears on their commercials. Like, we're night and day, and everyone wants to kind of make us, you know, into something we're not. And that's when you have to, and of course, like our first round of packaging was terrible, and maybe we said some things on it we shouldn't have, you know. So you have to kind of take in a little bit of that feedback, but then always like continue to hone it on who you are, because like that's what people really like, whether it's a music artist, an influencer, you know, or a brand. Just that authenticity, I feel like, is winning every day right now.
Yeah, so in hindsight, obviously, it seems to make really complete sense, but I'm curious, in the early days, what do you use to find your target audience, or how do you get to that product market fit? Anything that you all went through kind of in the early days? Obviously, you're at this point now, you're very successful, but I got to imagine that early on, maybe things were a little less clear.
I mean, I always tell people on the product market fit stuff is get one product out, launch it, and the customer will tell you everything they don't like about it, everything they like about it. But like a lot of it, you know, if you get too hung up in the market research or analysis paralysis, like you'll never, you know, get to that point. So like our business was literally a side job. You know, we said, okay, we got this manufacturer, we got this product, we think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna cost 30 grand to get a first round of product. Everybody pony up the money, we're buying it, we're loading it in the spare bedroom, you know. Everyone's heard us talk about it in our group of friends. You know, one of the dude wipes coming out, we're just like, we just have to do this at this point. And like, you really can't know anything until that happens. And then I think you'll kind of be amazed after that happens, how quickly you learn how much people are willing to tell you, you know, what they like and don't. So yeah, that first product market fit is like, make a business plan, look at some things, look at some markets. But I think the number one like inquiries, you know, that we get from entrepreneurs is people who I always just try and give them like the straight up advice. And, you know, Cuban is good for that because he doesn't sugarcoat anything. Is, you know, don't get stuck in that idea phase. Don't be one of those people who's like talking about the idea and never gets the product out, because you won't learn a damn thing. So product launch, you know, is most important thing. It doesn't even matter if it stinks, you know, as long as you're like,
Pun intended.
yeah, as long as you're okay with like learning, tweaking, moving forward.
Very cool. So I don't mean to rehash bad memories, but I am curious. Obviously, you all are very successful and you're up here, but I know, like, even for me, positioning ShipStation to a new warehouse or something like that, I probably learned a lot more from the times that I fell flat on my face than I did maybe the ones that went smooth. So now, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm curious if you maybe had a failed pitch or a misstep along the way that maybe you took some valuable learnings out of.
I know in previous times, back in the late 90s, I was pitching this thing. It was a social media platform, and I was pitching, you know, hundreds of people a day, and everybody's just, oh, you're an idiot if anybody's going to put their Rolodex online. No one's going to do that. And pitched and pitched and pitched, and, you know, I was never prepared for someone to say yes after a while of being beat down. And I finally got to this stage with someone. I did the pitch. And, you know, it's kind of like one of those Tommy Boy moments where you're kind of standing up and you know, saying goodbye and shoving stuff in, and the guy goes, I get it. And I'm already putting away all my stuff and thanking him for his time. And then I look at him, I go, you what? And completely lost him after that. You know, I was not prepared for that yes. So, you know, I heard no enough times, more than I did in high school from every girl I asked out. But, so, yeah, I was definitely not prepared for that.
Anyone else have maybe a teaching or a learning moment along the way?
We have a funny one on our Shark Tank update episode, is like the Walgreens headquarter deal in Chicago, you know, where you're shaking hands, making the deal, which is recreated from TV, like the deal's already been made. So we have the unfortunate unfortunate fate of then the product didn't work out in Walgreens. It didn't sell, just not the right product or not the right aisle, whatever like learnings you could take from that. But that still runs on CNBC, once a month of us making a handshake deal in Walgreens. So like that's just like a funny, can't really worry about it. Like, hey, that didn't work. What can we learn from it? Like you said, there is a lot of learnings from like a big failure, and that was like, oh man, this is gonna be such a big customer for us. We're gonna make so much money off of them. They're gonna be around forever. Nope, it was like a 6-month deal that barely made any money, and we lost a bunch of money on it because we had to take all like the dude wipes back. So yeah, it's like you just have to kind of make the best out of the situations, and hopefully people go into Walgreens enough and say, where are the dude wipes? That maybe they'll give us a call back and say, all right, we need them again. Everybody keeps asking.
Cool, good stuff. So curious, knowing that we have a lot of brands in the audience, maybe people that are working to hopefully be in your shoes, if you had one piece of advice from all these pitches or even just your business journey, if we go down the line, kind of what your parting thought or what you would leave someone with here.
I think a lot of people go into pitches and they always have the mindset of trying to sell them on the product itself. And the two things I don't think ever spend enough time on is their ability to execute and really selling them on how they're going to be able to deliver that and deliver everything they're promising. And then also just understanding who they're pitching to and make themselves look like someone that they want to work with. I mean, you could spend an entire hour talking, trying to sell someone on a technology, but never ever touching on, hey, I'm the one to execute and I'm the one that you're going to want to work with.
I'm curious if you have, you got to imagine that most people are saying, hey, I'm the one that you want to work with. I guess what leads to that authenticity that actually comes through and isn't just another person claiming that?
Well, if you have a track record, it's really easy to show that you know how to deliver stuff. But a lot of time, first-time entrepreneurs, they don't have that track record. And at that point, they're going to look at the team. If it's not some special IP they can take if you fail, they're going to look at the team that's delivering. So you really need to build that up and surround yourself with the right people that know how to deliver if you don't have the resume to do it. So, that's absolutely critical.
Chris?
So most people think about a sales pitch as something that is done face-to-face, but a lot of the times, mainly when it's consumer products, it's done either over the phone or through an email or a sample package being sent to someone. And that is also very important, that we found that your pictures or the way you package your samples that you send over makes a huge difference. So taking a few moments to think about how you present it will make the big change.
So I think we've talked about this before, but every pitch is a learning moment on both sides. So, I mean, if you get advice during a pitch, take it to heart. If you get a yes right away, definitely, of course, celebrate immediately, but also, continue to pay attention to your customers. If you get a no, then either the person you were pitching is going to be telling the story later about that one that got away and how much, it sucked that they didn't invest in you after you get your third comma, or maybe you learned something about your team, or that your product is not resonating, or that your placement or your model. But just as much as you can learn from a pitch, do.
Yeah, I'd say don't overcomplicate it. Whether that is your packaging or your investor pitch or your presentation or your marketing. I remember our first Indiegogo campaign, we tried to have every possible feature and over-specified ourselves and over-communicate, made it way too complicated like any good early tech company. And just try and keep it simple. You're there to tell the story, and you're there to communicate why someone should trust you or trust what you are doing and what you're creating. They're going to have questions. You can ask those questions. You definitely want to have it substantial enough, but just focus on really what is important, what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, all great points, and that package thing jogged my memory, because I would just say try everything and don't be afraid to fail. When we first put out Dude Wipes, we would just ship them to anybody, any celebrity, any person, hoping that somebody would pick them up. So, hundreds, probably thousands of Dude Wipes go out. And one of them was to Rob Dyrdek. And, I put a handwritten note in there to Rob in black, hey, huge fans of the show, everything you guys do, check out our product, and all of a sudden, Big Black's tweeting on Twitter, and he's got a picture of him with the dude wipes, and we're freaking out. Like, this is our biggest exposure yet. And then like a few months later, MTV calls us up, and they're like, yeah, we think it's a really funny concept. They want to do a whole story on the Fantasy Factory about dude wipes, and how everyone needs to know how to have a clean ass, and Rob had this like outrageous episode where they built a full-size ass and a toilet, and they were dressed up as pieces of poo and coming out of it and using a dude wipe. Like, it was like a massive production on MTV, and we didn't have any creative control, actually. We just had to sign off like, hey, we're cool with you guys using dude wipes on the show, because what were we going to say? No? Like, no experience, no presence. And they aired it. I mean, it was absolutely hilarious. The Dude Wipes is on MTV in this crazy skit, and it was all because one of those packages with one of those notes hit and resonated with somebody, and took off into a thing of its own. So you gotta plant a lot of seeds for one of them to grow on the product, the marketing. Like, kind of just got to be relentless with trying different things.
How do you balance that of kind of, scattershot, try whatever works with maybe the early days of a business and having, finite resources? I guess kind of what went through that process with each of you of we want to try anything that'll work, but we also, have maybe limited runway.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, especially when you're a small company and you're seeing, hundreds of packages going out, and just the shipping costs of all those, and you're not sure, how it's going to work. But yeah, it is definitely right that you don't know who will open your box and where it will get to and where you're going to be featured. So I would suggest don't send it anywhere, but send it to the right places and send a lot of them. It's definitely much cheaper than paying for marketing or paying for, I don't know, Facebook ads or anything like that.
I'd say it's calculated risk as well. Like, if you have a $1,000 product, maybe not send 1,000 of those perhaps in the early days. So understanding kind of what you're giving up, how much time you're spending, what the effort is versus the reward, and it's a great tool. Like, get scrappy, persevere, make it happen.
We always struggled with sizes because depending on who you're shipping it to, you're guessing a size to send. And when we launched Gas Monkey Garage, I mean, those boys were big. I mean, we'd go up to 5X with them. We even had 10X request, which there is a 10X out there I didn't know of. But with ours, when you launch, you have no idea what that SKU is going to be. What's your audience? Are they going to be mediums, large, extra large? And then trying to guess that and ship that out, you end up at the bottom of a lot of people's lockers. We used to fill up the Mavericks locker every time with the opposing teams with a gift bag. And, we'd get calls from all over the nation from, someone's niece, nephew, or whatever that got tossed a shirt. So we learned real quick that, they didn't exactly have a following we wanted. So we tried to be a lot more targeted and send it to people that we can follow up and try to encourage to wear it and take a picture with it.
Awesome stuff. Well, so much knowledge up here on this stage. We've got a few minutes left. I'm sure there are better questions out in the crowd than I've had today. So at this point, while we've got a few minutes left, I want to open it up to Q&A so you guys can pick their brains.
So when you have created a product that is disruptive for the market, and it requires a change of behavior in the people that are going to purchase it, for example, the iPhone or the Velcro, so you're requiring people to have a learning curve. What is, according to you, and it's going to be different, I know, for every single one of you, what is the most important thing or point to convey to the people that you're pitching to?
Wearing 3 sperms on a shirt was not that disruptive, so I'm going to bow out of this question.
I've been listening to a lot of this lately. So are you familiar with jobs theory?
Yes.
So I think in either of those examples that you posed, yes, it was a different technology or a different form factor, but underlying, they were intended to do a job, right? So I think if you frame your solution in a way that's going to make sense in the context around how they expect to do whatever it is that you're trying to do, today there's going to be some parallel, some existing solutions, some mechanism, some way that they're trying to achieve that and not achieving that progress. And then so you find that opportunity that presents itself where there's enough of a problem or enough of a need to change, and you go there and you focus on that. Because changing behavior is very, very difficult. Very, very challenging. But where somebody is already making a decision and choosing behavior, and you present at that time a better solution, then it's easy.
Come on, Sean, you changed the way people wipe their ass. Come on, you know.
Ours was simple, and we didn't really fully understand it at the time, what we were doing, but it was humor. So, like, it comes back to the brand. Like, if, you know, we had this humorous brand that actually, okay, people would joke around about it, find it funny. All right, maybe I'll try these to wipe my ass. Maybe I'll move away from toilet paper. And, like, that's not the easiest thing to do if some guy's 25 years old and he's been doing something the same way, you know, since after he was a baby, because he used to do it the right way. But, you know, now he's been using toilet paper his whole life. And where we were able to kind of enter that conversation was just that we made a joke of ourselves and our product, and people then bought in on the joke and they ran with it. So, like, you know, that might not work for an iced tea, but it could, you know, like maybe your angle is something like super chic and high end, but it's like, you know, creating something kind of above the product that gets more into people's lifestyle, because then they can kind of change that behavior a little bit. So yeah, we kind of had that dumb luck. We were just like trying to be funny, but then we didn't realize, oh, that's a good idea if we're funny, because then, you know, it'll encourage a little bit of that behavior change.
Great question.
I have a question about building out your teams. You kind of mentioned when you're going into the pitch, you want to make sure you're representing the ability to do what you're promising. So when you're just starting to scale, you don't have a lot of capital. How did you go about filling those positions with people that knew how to do things better than you did? So in retail, maybe it's operations. Did you try and attract a big fish and bring them in on equity, or did you try and just learn it yourself and do it, or how did that work for you guys?
Typically, it'll be, you know, the promise of future equity, because you don't have a lot of cash to bring them apart. But there is a tremendous amount of people in the corporate world that's always died to get out and have their hand at entrepreneurship. So you can really find and network your way into that individual that knows retail or knows social media enough to get your product launched and be that good resume to add. You know, and you know, on the West Coast, people usually quit their job when they get funded and go at it full time. But when you look at Texas, a lot of people actually keep their day job and start it at night. So it's really networking around and finding the best talent at that's, you know, has that day job already that has a proven track record.
I can say in our case, one of the pivot points of our company is that when we hired a sales manager, since we're not from here and English is not our first language, it was kind of a language barrier, and, you know, making all the small talk with shop owners and buyers and such. And when we finally found someone that's good at what she's doing, I just told her, hey, I can't pay you right now, but what we can do is pay you really high commission. And we did that for a while. And gradually, as the company grew, increased our salary and the commissions went down a little bit. So that really helped, because we didn't have to, you know, whatever she brought in, you know, she received back.
I would also say, if you do not have the opportunity, because yes, you need to build a team, you need to build people around you that, you know, can help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. But also, if it is your company, you need to become the expert. Like, you need to be the expert at male hygiene products. I don't know, is that a category? I mean, it's not the right word for it. So yeah, when we started Ilumi, I knew nothing about lighting. I knew nothing about wireless technology. I knew nothing about retail. You know, we brought some great folks to help solve some really big problems, but it was me who went out and closed some of the retail accounts, and I figured out how it works. And you do that through, even if you can't hire someone, find someone who knows it, meet with them, learn from them, tell them what you're trying to accomplish in order to get there. But you do it.
Yeah, and then to build off that, yeah, that's really important. Like, and especially if you only got one or two people like running the show and you're doing it full time, like, you do have time to just try your hand at everything. But then also, you know, once you, let's say you get into the Facebook ads and you really figure it out and starting to make money, but now you're busy with other things, there's plenty of companies out there who you can hire to run your Facebook ads. and they're experts. So you're not bringing in an employee and putting your eggs in their basket and giving them equity. You're just saying, hey, now you're my Facebook, marketing agency, and you guys are, paid on commission, and the more we grow, the more you grow. So we've had a few partners like that who, are basically part of the company, but, technically they're not. Our warehouse is a third party, and at first, we put 3 pallets in there, and now we, have thousands. And at first their bill was, a few $100 a month, and now it's a lot more expensive. But that's the way to kind of manage that working capital, is because you're only paying them from that service you're providing. You're not locking in that like fixed capital of a roof or a person. So there's a lot of opportunities on the contracting route, and it's different for each company. Sometimes you need that expert under the house because of your industry. Other times, if you're willing to pay a little bit more but have a scalable solution externally, that could be a good option too.
Small e-commerce business, I'm sure the last thing that any of you were thinking was, how do I physically fulfill these products, right? So kind of on your point, Sean, like you obviously had a room full of dude wipes that probably wasn't very sustainable in Chicago. So what was that inflection point like, knowing that you maybe needed to outsource your fulfillment and not fulfill everything in your garage or in your house?
Yeah, it was just, it just kind of happened where, we basically had more product than could fit in that room. And then we went to the warehouse, but where that third-party warehouse was scalable is like they're only going to charge you for what you're storing and what they're shipping. So it was something we actually looked back on and we were like, why didn't we do this sooner? Like, this is pretty cheap. And then as we scaled the product, they grew. But I would get into a third-party warehouse, basically as soon as the packages just start piling up and you're just like, all right, this is a little too much. You're running the ShipStation, in your house, and they're stacking up. It's time to kind of say, let me hand this off to someone, let them get the orders, and it'll be cheaper than you think, because they're kind of a pay-to-play. They're going to charge you for what they do.
And they have typically the cost savings on shipping, because they have a much better rate than you'll get, doing a mom and pop out of a house. So you can apply a lot of those savings towards, their effort of pick, packing, and shipping. So you got to really take shipping cost in consideration as well.
And then you could focus on selling, marketing, like other things. So it's great to kind of have that grind it out, bring it to UPS time. But then you also have to sit back and say, my time is worth something. I'm spending a lot of time, slapping postage and fulfilling when I need to be like marketing, selling, working on product.
So I'll share with you, I was with Jeff Bezos a few weeks ago, and he was telling a story about his early days of Amazon, where that's exactly what he did. He threw stuff in the back of his van and would make local deliveries himself, and his big dream in life was to own his very own like Amazon shipping truck, like one truck, so he was there too, and where he is now. So, luckily supply chain as a service is alive and well now, but good luck on your platform.
Great question. We've got time for a couple more. All right. If not, then that concludes today. Really appreciate everyone. I learned a lot today. I appreciate you all sharing your time with us. Let's give them a round of applause.